How's it going? I'm Mr. Smith, and I've been a hobbyist writer for over 10 years. We're approaching November, National Novel Writing Month, and I wanted to make a video series on my progress throughout it this year. Now, I'll be honest, the story I'm working on for this year's NaNoWriMo has been worked on a little bit already. So I'll walk you through my idea and concepts that I've developed for it so far. Here's my story, called Fantasy Horror Story Placeholder Name. I haven't come up with a name for it yet. I've been wanting to push myself in this exercise, and I decided to write a story in the first person, which I haven't done before. And I wanted to write a horror story, also something I hadn't done before. I can hear you asking, what inspired you for this story? I'm glad you asked, oh brave straw man. I saw this photo. I already knew I wanted to do something out of my comfort zone for this year, so I saw this on my coworker's extra monitor, and I had already been thinking about a story idea, one where I try to write horror, and I got inspired. What do you mean you got inspired by a picture of a map? I have no idea myself, this just happens sometimes. I got an idea and started fleshing out what I wanted to do. I came up with the perspective character, a young man who's about to go through his culture's ritual of manhood, where he sets a goal for himself and achieves it. The idea that I came up with initially is that he's called to explore westward. Now they live here. They are a maritime people who started looking at exploring inland. However, the gods that they worship nearly a century ago stopped visiting them in person. This, paired with the fact that the forest to the east is shrouded in mist, gives many people enough pause to not explore further. Our main character, however, believes that this would be a great challenge for him to overcome. This seems great so far. However, one of the things that I enjoy most as a reader is finding out when someone whose perspective I've been reading from is unreliable. I also learned that I'd be able to create more horror-style scenarios if I had other people with the group. So now, I wanted to have a group of people who are challenged to go to the Eastern Forest. But why on earth would they do that? Well, I'm so glad you asked, hypothetical straw man. I needed to come up with a compelling reason for this, and here's where I've landed so far. It's because the gods that I mentioned earlier, well, they can speak to different priests or people, and I decided that the priest of the main character's village hears from the god of the land, Balak, for the first time in his life. Not only in his life, but in the previous two priests' lives as well. This guy's been silent for a while. This has the priest call for the next generation of adults. On the start of the year that they would turn 23, would embark on a journey to find Balak's old temple. Now, I have plenty of characters that I can develop and form relationships around, and also plenty of potential unreliable narrators. Now, I need something compelling, some reason why the gods left, why Balak went quiet, and why the people should care to find him and his temple in the first place. Now, I need to come up with the lore. Well, how about we get into the creation myth? We start with 3 siblings. Gotta love a good family drama. An eldest sister and 2 brothers. Strap in for this one. They each find different parts of the island that the story takes place on, and see beauty in it. Olme, the eldest sister, saw the ocean and the waves and was drawn to it. She claims the ocean surrounding the island. Next is Dolu, the middle brother. He sees the sky and claims it for himself. Finally, Balak sees the land and takes it for himself. They each use different parts of their realms to cultivate their own areas. For example, Dolu asks his sister, Olme, for some water. She gives it to him, and he breathes into it to make clouds. Not all his breath makes it into the clouds, however, and that's how we have wind. This continues, and eventually they each give part of themselves to make the 3 races. First, Olme gives her blood, Dolu his hair, and Balak his flesh to make the first race, dwarves. Then Olme gives her hair, Dolu his flesh, and Balak his blood for the second race, elves. And finally, Olme gives her flesh, Dolu his blood, and Balak his hair to create humanity, our respective characters' race. Now, I have a creation story, I have the races. Next step, I want this to be a horror novel, so what's happening? You ask such great questions, straw man. I want this horror novel to have a naturalistic horror. I want nature itself to be mutating and changing, creating a horror environment for the forest, and that's something the group of adults need to overcome. Full-on deer with cutaneous fibroma. Trust me, don't look it up unless you want to see some body horror. Anyway, why is this happening in our world? What's causing this issue? I landed on Balak not being around to cultivate and monitor the things that he created. Now, again, why is Balak doing that? Is he just a prick? No, of course not, you foolish straw man. I decided on the fact that his spirit was locked away by the other two gods. In order to know why they did that, you'll need to read the novella once it's out. So, let's recap. I wanted to write a first-person story, and I wanted to write a horror story. Both things I haven't done before. But, in order to get there, I wanted to have some groundwork done. So, I had my original idea, of a single person going on a journey. However, once I started developing the world, I realized that I'd be better suited having multiple people go on this journey. I came up with a creation story for the world, gods who created creatures in the world, and the races. Once I had this background information set up, I started asking why. A lot. Now, I have an idea with a people who I can continue to build out, and a direction for the story to go in. I have interpersonal conflict that I can use with the small group of adults going through the misty woods. I have a conflict with the gods fueling the horrors, and a more defined direction to go in. And that's where I'm currently at. I'm going to start outlining the story here soon, as well as work on a novel that I've been working on for a few years. I'll update on here when I can, and I want to catalog this journey from idea to outline to first draft and all that. Hopefully I can keep it at least a little entertaining for you guys. We'll see how this goes, but for now, Mr. Smith, out.